Man, this movie, it's just too much.
This definitely takes the cake as probably the most violent thing I've played.
We are determined to stop a situation in which video games with violent content are being peddled to our children.
You must watch this documentary seriously.
How messed up does a movie or game have to be for a country to make it illegal? Today we're covering everything from movies to documentaries to games to even YouTube videos and channels which were all banned for being too controversial. This deep dive includes moments that would make you squirm. So grab some H2O and get ready because we're starting this video off with a horrible YouTube trend. Happy slapping. In 2005, a series of videos called Happy Slapping Videos appeared on YouTube. Despite the name, there was nothing happy about them. Happy slapping videos followed a disturbing pattern. A random stranger might be waiting at a bus stop, walking through a park, or just going about their day. Suddenly, out of nowhere, someone would run up and slap them while a friend filmed the whole thing. The victim would be left stunned and embarrassed. Sometimes they'd try to fight back, which only made the situation even more chaotic. Meanwhile, the person who slapped them would take off laughing as they ran away. But the slap wasn't the most humiliating part. The video would be uploaded to YouTube where it usually got a ton of views. Filming the slap was the whole point because, as people said, a happy slap was just a slap if nobody caught it on camera.
Basically, someone assaults a stranger while being recorded on a camera phone, hopefully creating a video that will go viral on the internet.
At first, people thought these videos were funny because the slap seemed harmless, just light taps on the cheek. But as more people started making these videos, it evolved into something far more aggressive. Young people started hitting strangers with enough force to knock them to the ground. There was even the case of a guy who yelled, "This is YouTube material," while recording himself harassing a stranger. This was no longer funny. It's absolutely insane that people were randomly attacked just so someone else can get internet clout. As these videos spread online, more and more people began to feel sorry for the victims. And the backlash against happy slapping hit like a hurricane. But people didn't just complain, they took legal action. In February 2007, a law was passed making happy slapping a crime in France. In Denmark, a lady was sentenced to 8 months in prison for her part in a violent happy slapping attack. Law enforcement in multiple countries cracked down on happy slapping at the same time. Although the police tried to stop it, happy slapping videos kept showing up on YouTube. In 2007, a UK school principal came up with an insane solution. The government should just ban YouTube. No YouTube would mean no place to share these videos. At the same time, YouTube was under growing pressure to act. Many people felt the platform was enabling bullying by allowing happy slapping videos to stay online. Some users even boycotted YouTube, refusing to use it until the videos were completely removed. With talks of a possible ban, YouTube finally acted and took down most of the happy slapping videos. They also updated their policies to prevent similar videos from being uploaded in the future. YouTube's new policies made it clear. Violence, even if it's a prank, is not allowed on the platform. Now, this next one we're diving into is a movie that was inspired by a tragedy that happened over 100 years ago. Hexen, Witchcraft Through the Ages. When Hexen was made in 1922, it was the most expensive film ever produced in Scandinavia. It also took 3 whole years to film, but after all that effort, it was banned for being too disturbing. And that's because this film was about a topic that many people were scared of. Hexen is a horror film that explores the history of witchcraft. The film is split into several parts, each dividing into a different aspect of the subject. It was directed by Benjamin Christensen. To prepare for the film, Christensen read an ancient book about how to identify, hunt, and capture witches. During filming, he went to extreme lengths to make everything feel real.
To evoke the right mood, Christensen shot most of the film at night, also highly unusual for 1922.
The director even acted in the film himself, playing the role of the devil taunting priests and nuns. But the most disturbing part of the movie comes in part 3, where it shows how how witches were persecuted in the Middle Ages. It begins when a man named Jesper passes away lying in bed. His death seems natural, but Jesper's family believes he was murdered. The family accuses a poor old woman named Maria of taking Jesper's life, but Maria never even touched Jesper, so how could she have possibly harmed him? The family had an answer. Maria was a witch. Maria is old, wrinkled, and homeless. She looked exactly like what people thought a witch should look like, and that's all it took for them to accuse her. Back then, they believed witches could harm others using spells and curses. Jesper's family is so sure Maria is responsible that they report her to the judges. Maria is arrested and interrogated. At first, Maria insists she's innocent. She says, "How do you expect me to confess that which is not true?" But the judges pressure Maria until she finally cracks. Maria gives a false confession saying she's done horrible things. She said she gave birth to the devil's children, attended demonic feasts, and used magical ointments. But then Maria gets a bit carried away with her confession. She begins to accuse other women in the village of being witches too. The judges take notes as Maria names other supposed witches. Soon they have a long list. The women Maria accused are arrested and pressured to confess. Once they confess, they too are forced to name other witches in the village. It became a vicious cycle where, as the story says, every witch gives 10 other witches away. By the end, multiple women are found guilty and sentenced to be burned at the stake. The punishment is brutal and hard to watch. When Hexen was released in September 1922, it was very different from the other movies of that era. It showed people without clothes, black magic rituals, and a realistic devil with horns. The list goes on. There were torture chambers, possessed nuns, and even sacrifices. Hexen wasn't just a movie, it was a nightmare on screen. Because of the disturbing visuals, the film got a lot of backlash. Remember, this was way back in 1922. One movie critic said Hexen was absolutely unfit for public exhibition. In the United States, it was banned outright. Even in Sweden, where it was made, theaters were scared to play it. The filmmakers had to cut out some of the scariest parts just to get it shown. But even after the cuts, people still thought the film was too much to handle. Over time though, Hexen became a classic. The makeup sets, costumes, and special effects were ahead of their time. Today, Hexen is even listed as one of the 1001 movies you must see before you die. And if you're not too scared, you should check it out. This next YouTube video is about a dumb YouTube channel that triggered a police manhunt. The Catch Me Killer. In February 2009, a new channel appeared on YouTube, but their first video was so disturbing that it left viewers feeling disgusted and angry. A man using the name Catch Me Killer posted a video saying he was responsible for several unsolved crimes. The YouTuber blurred his face and distorted his voice so no one could identify him. And then he began his confession.
I decided to confess to you. I decided to do it on YouTube because there's millions of people who fuck my body at times. Whenever my body is found, then the clue is where's that body.
He claimed he'd taken the lives of 16 women and hidden the remains. Although he said he was confessing, there was no regret in his voice. Instead, he sounded proud. The end of the video was the worst part. This mystery man issued a challenge to everyone watching.
The Catch Me Killer tells viewers, play my game and solve my puzzles and I'll lead you to 16 bodies one by one.
He promised to provide a clue every week until they located the victims, saying once all 16 bodies are found, you'll know exactly who I am. But he also added a warning for the police, don't try to chase me, don't try to catch me. Once this video went viral on YouTube, people wondered who this mystery man was. Was he a real criminal or was this all just a big joke? The only way to find out was to play his twisted game. It was obvious this mystery YouTuber knew what he was talking about. Every clue he gave was connected to an unsolved case, usually involving missing people.
He would also leave cryptic messages below videos that were talking about certain missing women. He never really stated anything outright, but he would heavily imply that he had some sort of involvement in their disappearance.
His first clue was about Tara Grinstead, a former beauty queen from South Georgia. She'd been missing since 2005. Although he didn't say her name, he talked about her past as a pageant contestant. He also hinted that he was responsible for the disappearance of Jennifer Kessie, another missing person from 2006. Since these clues were linked to real cases, the police launched a manhunt to find this mysterious YouTuber. But their only lead was a YouTube video with a blurred face and altered voice. That wasn't much, but it was enough to track him down. Cyber experts identified the IP address of the computer that posted the video. They traced it to a house in Florida. Hours later, agents stormed the house and arrested the man responsible for the Catch Me Killer YouTube channel. His name was Andrew Scott Haley, and he was in his late 20s. The cops thought they caught a criminal. I mean, this guy confessed to taking 16 lives in his YouTube video. The biggest surprise was yet to come, because when they arrested Andrew Scott Haley, they realized it was all a lie. When Andrew, aka the Catch Me Killer, was questioned, he gave cops a ridiculous explanation. Andrew claimed everything he said in his video was a joke. He said he was playing a game to fool people on the internet. And he was right. Police found nothing to indicate he was involved in any of these disappearances. But that didn't mean Andrew was off the hook. Police spent hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars trying to catch him. This hoax wasted public resources and caused real pain to the families of the missing people. Andrew was charged with evidence tampering and making false statements because his videos disrupted the investigations into these cases. He was sentenced to 2 years in a work release jail and several more years of probation. The Catch Me Killer YouTube channel was banned and all his disgusting videos were scrubbed from the internet. This next video was meant to be funny, but it made a lot of people really mad. How to say hello in 30 languages. If you visit Filthy Frank's YouTube channel, you'll find videos with strange titles like Angry Black Man in Closet, Man Eats Raw Squid and Pukes, and Loser Reads Hater Comments. But no matter how much you scroll, one video you won't find is a video called How to Say Hello in 30 Languages. Even though the video had a pretty innocent title, it caused so much controversy that YouTube stepped in and deleted it. Big question is why?
All right, gather round, children. It's that time of the year again.
Filthy Frank was a YouTuber and internet comedian, but his comedy was different from most. He made people laugh by doing over-the-top things. He even called himself an absolute madman and the literal embodiment of everything a person should not be.
Do you want pearly white teeth the natural way? Now you can do it for cheap. Spray paint your teeth white.
In the early 2010s, Filthy Frank's weird skits and crude jokes were a big hit on YouTube. And he totally deserved the success because he was one of the most creative YouTubers of his time. Although his jokes pushed the boundaries, fans loved his edgy humor.
Because everybody's trying to promote their mixtape nowadays when they talk about how they're gonna make it, miraculously becoming a rapper. And these people believe that it's gonna happen.
Then one day, Filthy Frank finally went too far. With one video, people thought his comedy went from edgy to unacceptable. On August 25th, 2012, Filthy Frank uploaded a video titled How to Say Hello in 30 Languages. From the title, most people expected him to just say hello in different languages from around the world. But that's not what he did. Instead of just a hello, he acted out over-the-top stereotypes about people from each country. For example, when he said hello in Indian, he made a goofy face and yelled really loud. For Swedish, he made a weird noise again and again. Every country got its own bizarre act. For some countries' greetings, he just flushed a toilet. The video was supposed to be lighthearted fun, but some viewers didn't see it that way. They felt like it spread negative stereotypes and was disrespectful. For instance, when Filthy Frank did the Latino greeting, he acted like a criminal. YouTube eventually took down the video for violating its policies, especially regarding discriminatory content. The Filthy Frank wiki about the video says his video was removed due to him being racist and rude about countries. Although YouTube took down the video, you can still find it in other places online. A lot of people loved his sense of humor, but his edgy style just wasn't for everyone. Now he's a successful musician under the name Joji, and his music is pretty good. This next banned video was supposed to be educational, but viewers found it terrifying. Mondo Kane. When Mondo Kane came out, it was called the world's first shockumentary, and that wasn't a compliment. A shockumentary is a documentary meant to shock and disgust its audience. The more disgusted the audience is, the better the shockumentary. So the question is, what was in Mondo Kane that made it so disgusting?
Mondo Kane is a spectacle as big as the eye can see.
Mondo Kane was produced in 1962 by a team of Italian filmmakers. Initially, they told everyone that they were making a documentary about different cultures around the world. That sounded innocent enough. However, people began to realize that this was no ordinary documentary when they first heard the title Mondo Kane. Mondo Kane is an Italian phrase that literally translates to dog world. But it wasn't just about the dogs, it had a much darker meaning. The director titled the documentary Dog World world to show that humans can be just as wild and cruel as animals. In this case, dog world meant a harsh world where people acted like beasts, kind of like saying a dog-eat-dog world. Mondo Cane wasn't just about different cultures from around the world. It focused on the most violent and disturbing practices. It was a collection of footage displaying mankind at its most depraved and perverse. Once the documentary was ready, posters popped up all over Italy inviting people to watch it in theaters.
Hurry, hurry, hurry! They're just in time, friends, to see the most sensational, the most colossal attraction ever witnessed by the human eye.
Even though the ads warned about how unsettling the movie was, people wanted to see it for themselves. But they weren't ready for what they witnessed when Mondo Cane finally aired in theaters. The film premiered in Italy on March 30th, 1962, and it was 108 minutes of non-stop shock. It showed the filmmakers traveling the world, capturing the most gruesome footage from different tribes. The documentary opened with a chilling disclaimer. All the scenes that you will see in this film are true. If they are shocking, it's only because there are many shocking things in this world.
The duty of a reporter is not to make the truth seem sweeter, but to show things as they really are.
And they weren't kidding. In one scene, women were fattened up with food until they weighed over 264 pounds. Then they were offered as wives to the village dictator. There was a religious ceremony where villagers walked in a parade while holding live snakes. Another scene showed people burning money during a funeral so the deceased person could take the money into the afterlife.
Here, after hundreds of dark centuries, men discover for the first time in their lives that they have a doubt.
The film also included scenes of animals being treated badly. Mondo Cane definitely delivered on its promise. It was shocking, disgusting, and soon everyone was talking about it.
Mondo Cane. People all over the world are talking about Mondo Cane. For Mondo Cane has more in it to talk about than any picture ever before seen.
But the same thing that made the documentary famous also led to its downfall. When Mondo Cane became the talk of the town, it also generated a lot of controversy. The first problem? Critics hated it. They called it gross and uncivilized. And with very graphic scenes, it's easy to see why. But that wasn't the only issue. Soon, people started to wonder if everything in the documentary was actually real. There were rumors that some scenes were staged or edited to make things look worse than they really were. The filmmakers were also accused of exploiting the tribes they filmed. Critics said they were only showing this footage to make money without caring about the cultures they were showing. And as more people watched it, the backlash got stronger. Many countries banned the documentary. For instance, Mondo Cane was banned in the UK because some scenes showed animals being treated inappropriately. The filmmakers defended their work, saying that they were just showing the world as it really is. Now, more than 60 years later, Mondo Cane is still one of the most disturbing documentaries ever made, and it's still banned in many places to this day. This audience review on Rotten Tomatoes says it best. This is still the quintessential shockumentary. If you have a strong stomach, watch this flick, but if you have any hesitations, hold back. Now we're diving into a video game that caused such a mess it had to be settled in court. Bully. In 2005, Rockstar Games announced a new game. It was called Bully, and just the name made people freak out.
They coming out with a game where children can beat their teachers up, children can beat their classmates up.
These are things that are depicted in the game.
In the game, right.
The game wasn't even out yet, but people assumed that a game called Bully would make bullying seem cool, and that might increase violence in schools. As the complaints increased, Rockstar defended their game. They said it wasn't about being a bully, it was about fighting them. In the game, players controlled a character named Jimmy Hopkins. Jimmy was a student at Bulworth Academy, but Jimmy wasn't a bully. He protected weaker kids from bullies. That explanation calmed things down in the US, but in places like the UK and Australia, people still wanted it banned. So the creators of the game decided to change something. They renamed the game in certain countries. The new title was Canis Canem Edit. That means dog eat dog in Latin. But apart from the name change, everything else in the game stayed the same. In 2006, Bully was finally released, and when people actually played it, it wasn't nearly as dangerous as they expected. It was given a teen rating in the US and a 15 rating in the UK. But that didn't end the drama. Some powerful people still wanted this game gone. Jack Thompson was a lawyer famous for fighting against violent video games, and Bully was next on his list. He didn't care that the game was about stopping bullies. He believed it was way too violent for kids. So Thompson took Rockstar Games to court. He wanted Bully banned forever, off the shelves and out of homes. Unfortunately, things didn't go his way. Before making a final ruling, the judge did something unexpected. He played the game himself. After seeing what Bully was really like, he ruled that there was no reason to ban it. This meant gamers in the US could keep playing Bully. But in Brazil, it was a different story. In 2008, the Brazilian government started cracking down on violent video games. Bully was one of their main targets. A Brazilian court declared the game was too violent for young children and teenagers. The judge added, the aggravating factor is that everything in the game takes place inside a school. Stores in Brazil were given 30 days to pull it off the shelves. Anyone caught selling or even owning the game would have to pay a fine. Brazilian gamers smuggled pirated copies into the country, but the ban stayed in place for almost 10 years. It wasn't until 2016 that the ban was finally lifted. Up next is a video that was meant to be a prank, but it became an international scandal. The PewDiePie sign. PewDiePie is one of the most popular YouTubers in the world, but even his massive popularity couldn't stop YouTube from deleting one of his videos in 2017. Just 1 month earlier, in December 2016, PewDiePie became the first YouTuber to reach 50 million subscribers.
Also, we gained 50 million subscribers.
At that point, he was making around $14 million a year from ads and sponsorships. Huge brands like Disney were collaborating with him, and he was about to release the second season of his show, Scare PewDiePie. Life was great for PewDiePie, but all the success came with pressure. To keep his 50 million subscribers entertained, PewDiePie needed to post exciting videos regularly. If he slowed down or put out boring videos, it could keep him from growing.
You know, even though it might not seem like it, I really care about every single video I make. I make sure it's the best it can be. I do daily content after all.
Just weeks after hitting 50 million subscribers, PewDiePie came up with a dumb video idea that almost ruined his career. PewDiePie decided to make a video where he would check out strange services available on the internet to show how crazy the modern world is. To find online services, he went on Fiverr, which is a website with thousands of freelancers.
There's a website called Fiverr where you basically can ask anyone for anything for $5.
PewDiePie wanted to see just how far people would go to earn $5 on Fiverr. To start, he chose a service that caught his interest.
But my favorite is Your Message On, where these guys, for example, will paint your message on my body and dance in the jungle.
PewDiePie came up with the most outrageous phrase he could imagine, something no one would ever say in public. Then he offered freelancers $5 to hold up a sign with that phrase on it. I can't repeat the exact phrase because I don't want to get in trouble by YouTube, but it was a terrible thing to say. It read, "Death to all members of a certain religious group."
Here we go. Sign to behold. Death to all.
Here's where PewDiePie made things worse. Instead of hiring freelancers who knew what they were getting into, PewDiePie paid 2 freelancers from India to hold up the sign.
Exclusive on Fiverr for $5.
The men, known as the Funny Guys, lived in a rural area in India. They didn't fully understand the meaning of the words PewDiePie asked them to write, but for $5, they did it. They recorded themselves laughing and dancing while holding the offensive sign. Then they sent the video to PewDiePie and received their $5. In January 2017, PewDiePie shared the video on YouTube. He expected his fans to laugh at what people would do for $5, but they didn't find it funny at all. News outlets around the world picked up the story accusing PewDiePie of promoting violence. Reporters dug up other controversial videos on PewDiePie's channel, including one that showed a man dressed as Jesus saying Hitler did absolutely nothing wrong. But PewDiePie wasn't the only one getting criticized. The Fiverr freelancers from India who held up the sign were also in trouble. Fiverr.com was created by Israelis, and PewDiePie's sign was a direct insult to their people. To punish the Indian freelancers, Fiverr banned their accounts, preventing them from getting any freelance jobs on the platform. Desperate, the Indians made an apology video saying that they didn't know what the message on the sign meant.
Extremely sorry for the mistake we have made in the video. Please forgive us. We really don't know what the message meant while making the video.
They also said that losing their Fiverr accounts took away their main source of income. Everyone felt bad for them. Even PewDiePie tried to help them get back on Fiverr.
Now, PewDiePie on Twitter publicly reached out to them saying, at Fiverr, get them back their account. Please ban me, it's fine, but doesn't seem fair to ban these guys.
As far as I know, the Indian freelancers never got their Fiverr accounts back. But the situation was hurting PewDiePie too. Reporters reached out to companies working with PewDiePie asking how they felt about his offensive video. In response, major brands including Disney terminated their deals with him. YouTube also canceled Scare PewDiePie Season 2 and removed them from the Google Preferred program, making him lose a ton of money. As the backlash continued, the video disappeared from PewDiePie's channel. It's not clear if YouTube deleted it because it violated their policies or if PewDiePie took it down himself. However, PewDiePie did apologize, saying, "I think of the content that I create as entertainment and not a place for any serious political commentary. Though this was not my intention, I understand that these jokes were ultimately offensive." However, this scandal didn't destroy PewDiePie's career. He bounced back and is still one of the biggest YouTubers today.
The next film is so twisted that even horror movie fans struggled to sit through it.
The Human Centipede 2 full sequence. Before any movie can be released in the UK, it has to be approved by the National Film Board. It's a standard process, but when the Human Centipede full sequence was submitted for approval, the authorities didn't just reject it. They said it was just too horrible to show. Usually, a rejected movie can cut out the bad scenes and reapply for approval, but not this time. The board said that no amount of cuts would allow them to give this film a certificate. So what was in this movie that caused such an extreme reaction? The Human Centipede full sequence is about a man named Martin Lomax. Martin is a security guard who works in an underground parking garage. But Martin has a secret obsession. He wants to create something called a human centipede. It's a twisted concept where multiple people are stitched together to form one long, crawling creature, like a centipede. He got the idea from a movie he watched. Martin is so fixated on this idea that he even tells his mom about it. Obviously, she thinks he's out of his mind.
He keeps on talking about a centipede with 12 people.
But Martin doesn't care what anyone thinks. Even though he has no medical training, he starts gathering tools like duct tape and a staple gun to bring his twisted vision to life. He also finds an abandoned warehouse, which is the perfect spot for his plan. Then Martin begins kidnapping people one by one and taking them to the warehouse. Once he has 12 people, Martin begins his experiment. He uses a staple gun and duct tape to attach them together, and I'll let you fill in the rest. And yes, the movie shows every moment of this process. Once his creation is complete, Martin forces the centipede to crawl, deriving pleasure from his twisted work. But his experiment doesn't go as planned. The centipede begins to fall apart because people can't be attached that way. Disappointed by his failure, Martin snaps. He starts to get physical with his captives, but during the scuffle, Martin gets hurt. At that moment, the scene suddenly changes. Martin is back in the underground garage where he works, sitting at his desk like nothing happened. It seems everything the audience just saw was a dream. After filming wrapped, the editors spent months piecing everything together. The final product was 91 minutes of pure horror. The film didn't have a lot of dialogue, mostly screams and whimpers. Then they submitted it to the British Board of Film Classification for approval. But instead of getting approval, they got condemned. The UK Film Board flat out refused to give the film a certificate. They claimed the movie posed a real risk to cinema goers.
The look and atmosphere of this movie are disgusting. It being black and white and often dimly lit just makes this world look depressing and gives me this uncomfortable feeling.
Not getting approved meant the film couldn't be legally supplied anywhere in the UK, even on DVD or download. It was essentially banned across the country. As expected, the director was not happy with the board's decision. He issued a public statement criticizing their stance. He said, "Thank you for banning my film in this exceptional way. Apparently, I made a horrific horror film, but shouldn't a good horror film be horrific, give people their own choice to watch it or not. If people can't handle or like my movies, they just don't watch them. If people like my movies, they have to be able to see it anytime, anywhere, also in the UK. For most films, a ban like this would have been the end of the story, but The Human Centipede was different. Instead of avoiding the controversy, the producers leaned into it, using the ban as a key part of their marketing strategy. In the trailer, they said Human Centipede banned in the UK poses a real risk that harm is likely to be caused to potential viewers. All the controversy made people in the UK more curious about the movie. They wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Even though the film couldn't be legally sold or shown in the UK, the internet was impossible to control. Thousands of Brits found ways to watch it, either by ordering import DVDs or streaming it online. Meanwhile, The Human Centipede premiered in other countries where it was not banned. As moviegoers entered theaters, they were given barf bags just in case the film made them throw up. Some theaters even parked ambulances outside in case viewers fainted in shock. During one premiere, the movie affected a woman so much that paramedics had to assist her. One movie critic who saw the film summarized it in this way: "It's not really a film one can or should enjoy." Up next is a movie that went too far with a very sensitive topic: religion. The Last Temptation of Christ. The Last Temptation of Christ caused chaos when it came out. First, theaters refused to show it. Then, video stores wouldn't rent it out. Finally, when a few brave movie theaters decided to screen the movie, they were attacked by angry mobs. The backlash was intense, but people weren't surprised, because this movie was doomed as soon as the project started. And the first red flag was the man directing the movie, Martin Scorsese. In the 1980s, Martin Scorsese was already a Hollywood legend. He directed hit movies that made a lot of money at the box office. Despite all the success, Scorsese felt like something was missing in his career.
Well, over the years, I was always interested in making a film on Jesus, either from the character of Jesus, either seen through the Gospels or through other eyes, in a sense.
But Scorsese didn't have a resume for a religious film. His previous movies were mostly about violence and crime. One of his movies, Taxi Driver, was so disturbing that it inspired someone to become an assassin. Scorsese was the last person anyone expected to direct a religious film, but against all odds, he did it. In 1988, he released The Last Temptation of Christ. But when the film premiered, audiences were shocked by what they saw on screen. The movie opens with a disclaimer: this film is not based on the Gospels, but upon the fictional exploration of the eternal spiritual conflict. But that warning wasn't nearly enough to prepare people for what they were about to see. At first, the movie follows the normal Bible story. Jesus is baptized, starts preaching, gathers disciples, and performs miracles.
They'll have the real value, the value of love, to love, share, and comfort. They'll have the courage to do the good.
Jesus knows that it's his destiny to die on the cross. Then the story takes a bizarre twist. Someone suggests to Jesus that he doesn't have to sacrifice himself on the cross. Instead, he could have a normal life, marry, have kids, and live happily ever after.
I admit it. I'd like it, but I'll never have it.
Listen, if you really want God, don't spend your time in the desert. He's not there. He's right here. Read your scriptures. God doesn't want you to fast and pray. He wants you to make children.
At first, Jesus resists the idea, but as time goes on, the temptation becomes harder to ignore.
When I see a woman, I blush and look away. I want her, but I don't take her for God.
Eventually, the devil tricks Jesus into abandoning his divine mission. In this alternate version of the story, Jesus steps down from the cross and starts a new life. He marries Mary Magdalene and they're happy together. There's even a scene of them consummating their marriage. Years later, as an old man, Jesus regrets giving up the cross. He kneels down and prays, begging God for a second chance to become the Messiah.
I didn't fight hard enough. Give me your hand. I want to pay the price.
In a dramatic twist, the movie ends with Jesus back on the cross, completing his sacrifice for humanity. Scorsese and his team spent $7 million on the film, going all out to make it a success. But when it finally premiered in August 1988, viewers couldn't stand it. Christian groups called the film disrespectful and blasphemous. What really set them off was the scene of Jesus getting intimate with his wife. But the backlash didn't stop the studio from promoting the film. So some angry people took matters into their own hands. 2 months after the film was released, a Christian group set a movie theater on fire for showing the film. Around that same time, the director Martin Scorsese started getting death threats. It got so bad that he hired bodyguards to keep him safe for years. Religious groups staged protests that went on for weeks. Their efforts paid off. Many theater chains refused to screen the movie. Additionally, many religious countries, including Greece, Argentina, and Mexico, banned the film. 30 years have passed since the movie came out, but to this day, The Last Temptation of Christ remains one of the most controversial banned movies ever made.
This next video game caused so much fear and panic that even the police got involved.
Mariam. If you've ever played a horror game, you're used to jump scares and creepy music. But Mariam was scary in a different way. Players said the game was watching them, studying them like a stalker. Mariam was released in 2017. It was created by a developer from Saudi Arabia. It starts out like a typical horror game. You meet a pale girl with ghostly white hair standing alone in the dark. Her name is Mariam. She says she's lost and asks you to help her find her way home. At first, she asks for directions. Then she starts asking you personal questions like, where do you live? What's your Facebook account? Those personal questions in the game made players uneasy. They began to suspect that Mariam was trying to trick them into giving away personal information, and that suspicion quickly turned into a rumor. Soon, police in the UAE caught wind of it. They issued a warning telling the public not to play Mariam, just in case the game was trying to steal their data. The game's creator quickly denied the rumors. He said the personal questions were just meant to scare players. There was no ulterior motive. To calm everyone down, he even let tech experts look into the game's code. They found nothing suspicious. But even if Mariam wasn't stealing data, people still didn't like it. Many players claimed the game was too sinister. It received a lot of negative reviews on game stores.
It's inappropriate and sick of someone to make such a game that can damage people's minds and lives.
As more people complained, the hashtag #BanMariam trended across the Middle East. And in 2018, the UAE officially banned Mariam. They claimed the game was damaging to children's health.
Up next is a documentary that powerful people try to hide from the public.
Titicut Follies. Imagine spending 29 days inside a mental hospital in the 60s filming everything you see. That's what happened in 1966 when the crew of Titicut Follies recorded 80 hours of raw footage showing what happens inside a mental hospital. But before the public could see what they filmed, the documentary was banned. There were powerful men who tried so hard to keep this documentary buried. But why? The story of Titicut Follies started in 1966 when Frederick Wiseman made a huge decision. He was going to quit his job as a lawyer and become a filmmaker. Wiseman wanted his first project to be a documentary, but he chose a really weird place to film, the Bridgewater State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Massachusetts. Although it had never been done before, Wiseman somehow convinced the head of the mental hospital to allow him to film there. But there was one condition: the camera crew would have to be followed by hospital staff at all times during filming. They agreed and the filming began, but if the filmmakers knew the depravity waiting inside the hospital, they never would have gone in.
Next, let's go. Quincy.
Bridgewater wasn't just any hospital. It held patients who committed crimes but also had serious mental illnesses, making it hard for them to understand right from wrong. Instead of going to regular prisons, they were sent to places like Bridgewater to get treatment. This meant the inmates were dangerous criminals. But when the camera started rolling, the crew was shocked at how helpless these so-called dangerous criminals really were. Bridgewater Hospital was run more like a prison than a hospital. Instead of being treated, the inmates were bullied, humiliated, and neglected by the staff. The inmates were also left in unhygienic conditions. It was clear that the staff had no sympathy for them. One of the most haunting scenes in the documentary showed an inmate being force-fed while a guard made fun of him. Wiseman tried to stay professional even though what he saw deeply disturbed him. The way the patients were treated was wrong, but the staff didn't seem to care that the camera was catching all of it.
With the help of cameraman John Marshall, the two-man team recorded interviews between patients and staff, daily rituals such as the cleaning of patients' rooms, and interactions between the inmates.
The crew spent 29 days filming the horrors inside Bridgewater and then spent a year editing the footage into an 84-minute film. The documentary didn't have any narration, interviews, or explanations. It just showed what life was really like inside the hospital, leaving it up to the viewer to make sense of it. When the documentary was finally ready, Wiseman couldn't wait for people to see the truth about Bridgewater. He arranged for it to be premiered premiered at the 1967 New York Film Festival. Everything was set to go, but then, just before the premiere, something unexpected happened. A powerful group suddenly showed up and tried to stop the documentary from being shown to the public. As the premiere date approached, rumors started spreading that Titicut Follies contained unsettling footage of the patients being mistreated. That's when the Massachusetts government realized they could be in big trouble. If people saw the horrible things happening in the film, families of the inmates might sue them. After all, it was the government's job to make sure the hospital was running properly. And so the Massachusetts governor and other top officials took the film to court to prevent it from being shown. Their official reason? They said the documentary violated the patient's privacy and dignity. They also accused Wiseman of breaking an oral contract that was supposed to give the government control over what could be shown. But the director Wiseman wasn't going to give up easily. He wanted the world to see what really happened in the hospital, and he was ready to fight for it. And remember, he was a lawyer before he became a filmmaker. This kicked off a long legal battle between one filmmaker and the Massachusetts government. Wiseman won the first victory when a New York state court allowed the documentary to be shown at the film festival. But ultimately, he was no match for the might of the Massachusetts government. In 1968, a Massachusetts judge ordered Titicut Follies to be pulled from theaters and for all copies to be destroyed, claiming once again that it violated the privacy and dignity of the patients shown in the documentary. This was the first time a movie got banned in the United States for reasons other than obscenity, immorality, or national security concerns. It wasn't until over 20 years later, in 1991, that the court finally allowed it to be released. But there was one condition. The film had to include a statement explaining that changes and improvements had been made in Bridgewater since 1966. The person behind this next film got arrested for making it. Cannibal Holocaust. Imagine a documentary so shocking that the director was arrested for making it. And the crazy part, he was arrested because people thought he ended someone's life live on camera. The documentary at the center of all this drama was called Cannibal Holocaust. So why did the director create something so controversial? It all started back in 1979 when an American film crew set out to make a documentary about the tribes living deep in the Amazon rainforest. But there was something especially dangerous about the tribe they wanted to investigate. They were cannibals. It wasn't the smartest idea to wander into a forest looking for a tribe known for eating people, but that's exactly what these filmmakers did. The team, made up of a director, a writer, and 2 cameramen, traveled from the US and began their journey through the thick Amazon rainforest. It didn't end well. Those 4 documentary filmmakers were never heard from again. Most people assumed the worst, that they were captured and eaten by the tribe they went to film. But others believed the filmmakers might still be alive, lost somewhere in the jungle.
4 Americans plunge into the savagery of the Amazon jungle to film a documentary. They never come back. Are they still alive? If so, where are they?
Months later, an American professor formed a rescue team to track down the missing filmmakers in the Amazon forest. But any hope of finding them alive vanished when the rescue team found the skeletal remains of the filmmakers with their film reels in the forest. The rescue team brought the reels back to America and watched the footage, but nothing could prepare them for what they saw. The tapes revealed in gruesome detail how the filmmakers were taken out by the tribes they went to study. Yet after seeing this horrifying footage, the team made a bizarre decision. They decided to release the film to the public. Cannibal Holocaust didn't hold back. It shocked audiences with its graphic scenes showing the filmmakers losing their lives. At the premiere, people were horrified. Many couldn't sit through the whole thing. After its release in 1980, the documentary quickly was banned in over 50 countries because of its content. But here's the twist. There was something viewers didn't realize. It was a fake documentary. Everything was staged. The whole thing was actually a movie made to look like a documentary. The director even promoted it as a documentary and used a found footage style of filmmaking to make viewers feel like they were watching real events.
By appropriating the techniques of the documentary world, Deodato had skillfully persuaded audiences into thinking they were watching real, uncut scenes.
When the director announced that it was all fake, it surprisingly made the situation far worse because people refused to believe that it was fake. The scenes were so realistic that viewers thought the actors who lost their lives in the film were actually killed.
The way they faked that scene and other scenes in the movie
were, something that Hollywood special effects guys probably couldn't duplicate with millions of dollars.
Things got so serious that the police stepped in. The director was arrested by Italian authorities and charged with murder. Even though he tried to explain that it was just a movie, the cops didn't buy it. They planned to use the film as proof that he was guilty. And it didn't help that the director made the actor sign contracts to not go out in public for a year after the film's release, all to make it seem like it was a real documentary. To avoid a life sentence, the director Deodato had to bring the actors to court to prove that they were still alive and explained how he used special effects to fake the deaths. The actors also appeared on an Italian TV show together to prove to the entire country that they were in fact alive.
Deodato was pretty much a genius at the way he tried to fool the audience with the camera running out of film and stuff like that. He was very clever.
Even the native tribe shown in the movie wasn't real. Many of the so-called natives were just local actors hired from nearby towns. The backstory was fake too. No filmmakers were lost in the Amazon and no rescue mission was ever launched. It was all just a stunt to get people to watch this movie. The problem was that it worked so well that Deodato almost went to prison for life.
As unpleasant as the film is and as crude as it is, he does have a pretty good grip of the cinematic technique.
So why did Deodato make such a controversial film? He had a reason, though it didn't exactly make sense. He claimed he wanted to criticize how the media sensationalizes crime and violence to boost ratings. Deodato accused Italian news of showing real violent footage just for attention, and he wanted to show how wrong that was. But his explanation didn't calm people down.
This next documentary was meant to educate, but the government wanted it hidden from the entire country.
The War Game. The War Game wasn't just a documentary, it was a warning. Made in 1965, it showed what might happen if a nuclear bomb hit the United Kingdom. The documentary wasn't just about the explosion, it was about the chaos that would follow, the hunger, the violence, and the collapse of law and order. Because a nuclear attack never hit Britain, the director Peter Watkins had to use his imagination when making the documentary. He envisioned how the government would respond, how people would react, and what the aftermath would look like after a nuclear attack. So, why would someone make a documentary like this? Most documentaries are made because the director is passionate about the topic, but this one was different. Peter Watkins, the director, didn't want to make a film about a nuclear attack. His bosses at the BBC made him do it. The BBC, or British Broadcasting Corporation, was like the official TV network of Britain. Their job was to keep people informed. In 1965, the British public was worried about what would happen if a nuclear bomb hit the United Kingdom. In response to these fears, the BBC asked filmmaker Peter Watkins to create a documentary that would explore this terrifying possibility. The BBC didn't just want to talk about what could happen, they wanted to show it. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but things didn't go as planned. Because the documentary Peter Watkins created was so terrifying, it was banned. Peter Watkins, who was only 29, was one of the best documentary filmmakers in Britain. He was so talented that people said he could make films in the same sort of way that Mozart could compose music. In other words, Peter Watkins was a genius. When the BBC ordered Watkins to make a scary documentary about a nuclear attack, he took it very seriously, maybe too seriously. He worked with scientists, experts, and government officials to make the war game as realistic as possible.
9:16 a.m. A single megaton nuclear missile overshoots Manston Airfield in Kent and airbursts 6 miles from this position.
The documentary showed people hiding in fear, neighborhoods destroyed, and people becoming ill. There were also scenes of citizens looting shops, firestorms, and whole cities reduced to rubble. Food supplies run out and the police are armed. Even those who escape injury go into a state of fear and shock from the things they've seen. Throughout the documentary, a narrator explains how these events could really happen if a nuclear war occurred.
December the 25th. A refugee compound in Dover, Kent. 4 months after the attack.
Watkins worked hard on the project. He used 350 actors, skilled video editing, and dramatic sound effects to create a masterpiece. When Watkins finished the Wargame documentary, he proudly presented it to his bosses at the BBC. He thought they'd be impressed, maybe even reward him for doing such a great job, but the response he got was much harsher. The BBC, who asked him to make the film, refused to air it on TV. They decided to bury the documentary to make sure no one ever saw it. The official reason for this decision? They claimed the documentary was too terrifying and would cause panic among the public. In an official statement, the BBC insisted that it had reached this decision on its own and without outside pressure of any kind. Watkins was devastated, but there was nothing he could do because the BBC owned the rights to the video. Watkins was so upset that he resigned. However, people started to wonder if the BBC's reason was the whole truth. Was it really banned for being too scary, or was there more to it? Well, declassified government documents later reveal the truth. After Watkins completed the documentary, he handed it over to the BBC. The BBC then invited top British government officials to watch it before it was shown on television. This turned out to be a huge mistake because the government officials hated it. The documentary showed the British government completely falling apart during a nuclear attack, unable to help citizens. It made the government look weak and unprepared. If the British public saw the movie, they would lose faith in the government's ability to protect them. The declassified documents revealed that even the Prime Minister of Britain heard about the documentary and didn't like it. And so, the government pressured the BBC to keep the documentary hidden from the entire country. Although the BBC couldn't air it on British TV, they allowed the documentary to be shown at several film festivals abroad. For 20 years, the ban on the Wargame stayed in place. It wasn't until 1985, about 20 years later, that the BBC finally aired it on TV. In those 2 decades, the Wargame became legendary. People heard it through word of mouth and wanted to see what was so terrifying about it that it couldn't be shown on television. Today, the Wargame has a score of 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, which just proves how amazing it is. This next film was named one of the most unsettling documentaries ever made: The Act of Seeing with One's Own Eyes. Have you ever wondered what happens to your physical body when you pass away? This documentary tried to answer that question, but ended up creating one of the most disturbing documentaries ever made. Entitled The Act of Seeing with One's Own Eyes, the documentary takes viewers to a place most would never dare to go: a morgue. And the camera keeps filming as real autopsies are performed on real bodies. So why would someone make a documentary showing real autopsies? It starts to make sense once you learn more about the guy who made it. The director, Stan Brakhage, wasn't your average filmmaker. He was an experimental filmmaker known for breaking the rules. Stan loved to talk about deep topics that pushed people out of their comfort zones. In 1971, Stan decided to make a documentary about autopsies because he believed people needed to face the harsh reality that everyone one day would pass away. The title, The Act of Seeing with One's Own Eyes, is a literal translation of the term autopsy. The word autopsy is derived from the Greek autopsia, meaning to see for oneself. But how did he get permission to film a morgue? Today, this would be almost impossible, but in 1971, when Stan made the film, things were different. He somehow convinced a morgue in Pittsburgh to let him film the autopsies. However, Stan had to promise not to show the faces of the deceased. In the documentary, Brakhage shows morgue workers performing autopsies. There's no music, no narration, no explanation, just raw graphic footage of what really happens. Because the footage was so graphic, the documentary couldn't be shown to the general public. Censorship boards thought it was too disturbing and would upset the audience. Without narration or educational content, people couldn't really see it as a typical documentary. Maybe if it had some explanations or scientific information, it would have been considered educational. Since most theaters refused to show it, The Act of Seeing with One's Own Eyes was screened mostly at film festivals and private events. Over time, it became known as one of the most unsettling documentaries ever made. Up next is a game about driving cars. So why did it get banned? Carmageddon. Carmageddon came out in the late 90s, but it wasn't your usual racing game. Instead of punishing reckless driving, the game rewarded it. Players were encouraged to smash cars, run over pedestrians, and destroy everything in sight. The more chaos they caused on the road, the more points they got. Gamers thought Carmageddon was awesome, but for governments around the world, it was a serious problem. They felt the game encouraged reckless driving, and that could lead to real-life danger on the roads. To stop that from happening, some countries took drastic measures. years. Several countries, including Brazil and Argentina, banned Carmageddon completely. But in the UK, it turned into a messy back and forth. Every game sold in the UK had to be approved by the British Board of Film Classification, or BBFC. But when the BBFC saw Carmageddon, they refused to give it a rating until the violent parts were removed. Without the rating, the game couldn't be sold in the UK. Carmageddon creators fought back. They said the violence was no worse than what you'd see in Tom and Jerry, but the BBFC didn't budge. Carmageddon needed to be less gory, or it'd never be sold in the UK. Eventually, the game developers gave in. They made a new version where pedestrians were replaced with zombies, and instead of red blood, they had green goo. That way, it wouldn't look like it was encouraging real-life violence. The authorities were satisfied and allowed the game to be released in the UK. But what happened next made the BBFC look like fools. Not long after the censored version was released, something strange showed up online. It was a patch for the game, and it brought everything back. Zombies were swapped out for humans again. Green goo turned into red blood. It turns out that the patch was created by one of the original developers who worked on Carmageddon. Even worse, the game's publishers knew about it, but they didn't lift a finger to stop it. When the BBFC found out, they were furious. They felt tricked. First, the publishers got the rating by censoring the game. Then, they secretly brought back the violent version with a hidden patch. The BBFC took the game to court. For 10 months, they battled it out in court. But in the end, the BBFC lost. The BBFC's decision to ban the game was overturned, and the original Carmageddon, full of blood and gore, was released in the UK. This next movie was so influential that it encouraged real-life criminals to commit horrible crimes. Natural Born Killers. Natural Born Killers wasn't banned because people hated it. It was banned because they liked it too much. Some people even wanted to act like the characters in the movie. But if you know anything about the film, you'll understand why anyone imitating it was a recipe for disaster. Natural Born Killers is a romantic crime action film from 1994. The movie follows the story of Mickey Knox and his girlfriend Mallory. Both of them come from deeply troubled families. But when they meet, it's love at first sight.
Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm Mallory.
It seems like a typical love story. Mickey and Mallory even make plans to run away together. That's when the movie goes from romantic to disturbing. Mallory doesn't like her parents because of how they treat her. Before she and Mickey hit the road, they end Mallory's parents' lives as an act of revenge. After the crime, the couple has an unofficial marriage ceremony on a bridge.
You marry me?
Of course I'll marry you. I've been waiting for you to say that for so long.
As husband and wife, they journey across the country, but it's going to be a horrifying journey. As Mickey and Mallory move from place to place, they leave a trail of bodies behind. In one scene, they eliminate everyone in a diner just for fun. Soon, they realize they've claimed 52 victims in New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. The police launch a manhunt to catch them. Mickey and Mallory's faces are everywhere on TV and in newspapers. The police expect the public to help them track down the fugitives, but the opposite happens. Instead of seeing Mickey and Mallory as villains, the media turns them into idols. TV reporters romanticize their crimes. One journalist named Wayne Gale takes it even further. On a show, Wayne portrays the couple as rebels fighting against a broken system.
To tell the tale of Mickey and Mallory.
Thanks to the media, Mickey and Mallory become full-blown celebrities. However, they don't get to enjoy their newfound fame. After a violent shootout with the police, the couple is arrested and sent to prison. But even behind bars, their fame doesn't fade. Reporters are desperate to interview them. After spending a year in jail, Mickey and Mallory somehow manage to break out. After all their crimes, the film ends with Mickey and Mallory walking away without any consequences.
I'm on mission. Come on, let's go.
Okay, baby.
Natural Born Killers premiered in August 1994, and it was an instant hit. During its open weekend, it went straight to #1 at the US box office. It made $110 million on a $34 million budget, which was a huge profit. However, the film's popularity soon became a curse. Copycat crimes in real life started happening across the country. The criminals behind these attacks said the film inspired them. One even dressed like Mickey Knox during his crime. Another group of real criminals
codenamed their attack NBK, which stands for Natural Born Killers. People started accusing the movie of sending the wrong message, that breaking the law was somehow cool. The ending where fugitives walk away free was the worst part, but according to the director, that was the exact opposite of what he was trying to portray. The film was meant to criticize how the mass media sensationalizes crimes just to boost ratings and get more views. It was supposed to inspire change, not violence. However, because people lost their lives in these real-life copycat crimes, the film developed a dark reputation. Eventually, because of the film's violent content and negative message, it was banned in Ireland and the Philippines. And maybe banning it was for the best. This next game was banned because parents feared it could turn players into substance addicts. Fallout 3. Open world games promise freedom. You can go anywhere, do anything, and shape the story how you want. But this game took that idea to the extreme. In Fallout 3, players can use different substances to heal or get stronger. One of those substances was morphine, but there was a big problem. Morphine is a real substance. It's so addictive that it's illegal to have it without a prescription. This meant anyone playing Fallout 3 was introduced to this real-world illegal substance. Even worse, in-game characters could get addicted to morphine just like what happens in real life. When Fallout 3 reached Australia, the rating board said the game promoted drug use, so they banned it. This was a disaster for the game developers. Australia was a huge market and losing it could cost them millions. To get the game released, they changed morphine to Med-X. The new name removed the real-world connection and the ban was lifted. But Australia wasn't the only country that had a problem with Fallout 3. When German authorities saw the game's brutal combat scenes, they refused to approve it because it was way too violent. The game's developers were forced to remove most of the graphic content, and when they did, Fallout 3 was released in Germany. But Fallout's problems weren't over. Japan also had an issue with the game. In one mission, players could set off a nuclear bomb. Unfortunately, Japan has a tragic history with nuclear attacks, so this part of the game was deeply offensive to them. To avoid getting banned, the developers removed the bombing mission from the Japanese version. But even after all that, Fallout wasn't done causing trouble, and this time there was no fixing it. In the game, players run into two-headed mutant cows called Brahmin, but in India, this caused outrage. Brahmin is a Hindu word. Furthermore, cows are sacred in Hinduism. Many Indians felt the game was being disrespectful, but unlike other countries like Australia or Germany, India didn't ask for changes. They just banned Fallout 3, and to this day, it's still banned in India. This next YouTube channel didn't just get banned, the creator was wanted by the FBI. The False Prophet. The YouTube channel Sunshine Media Network International, or SMNI News, is one of the most controversial channels in YouTube history. For starters, the man behind the channel was telling everyone he was God, but if that sounds strange, brace yourself because it only gets weirder. Apollo Kibuloy was born and raised in a small rural town in the Philippines his entire life. He came from nothing and lived with little. That is until 2005 when he announced to the world that he was chosen by God himself to be Christ on earth. The title was supposedly rewarded to him for living a pure life.
Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, the most successful of the world's self-labeled saviors.
The official coming of the Son of God was in April 13, 2005.
But years before then, in 1985, Apollo was the leader of a church called the Kingdom of Jesus Christ in the Philippines. A few years after the church was created, he created SMNI News, which aired on television. But he went on to create the SMNI YouTube channel, which was a huge part of his media empire, giving him exposure to billions of people. But there was a big problem. Apollo was saying some extreme things on YouTube. As far back as 2005, Apollo called himself the Messiah and the appointed Son of God, basically implying he was God on earth. He made YouTube videos talking about how he was divine and tried to recruit more followers. But Apollo had a lot of enemies, and he often threatened and insulted them in his videos. Other videos showed him living in luxury while treating his followers like they were his servants.
This may be the most beautiful spot in the Philippines, and it's paid for by people who live on $2 a day. So how do you justify your lifestyle? I mean, your watch could probably feed 100 families for a month.
If this is not God's will for me to have these things I have, you can take it away.
Despite all this, SMNI managed to avoid getting banned. That was until June 2023, when one man made it his mission to get the channel kicked off of YouTube. Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers tweeted at the YouTube team asking them to take down the news channel. He had a really good reason for this request. It turns out that Apollo Kiboloi, the man running the channel, was wanted by the FBI.
Why is this guy still allowed when he has an actual FBI warrant and he's on the most wanted list?
The tweet read, "Someone at Team YouTube has to help the feds or shut this account down. Priest is running a channel still reaching out to victims." After his tweet got a couple thousand likes, YouTube decided to investigate, and what they found was very disturbing. The FBI accused Apollo Kiboloi for running a labor trafficking ring. He was allegedly bringing church members to the US using fake visas. Once they arrived, the members would roam the streets asking people to donate to a kids charity called the Children's Joy Foundation. But the charity was just a front. All donations were going straight to Apollo's pockets. Besides the charity scam, Apollo was involved in other illegal activities like his fixation with selecting the perfect personal assistant. He would handpick female church members to be his personal assistants. These women were forced to work at his house during the night doing things that were far from normal assistant duties. The worst part, some of them were on the younger side. The FBI found out about his crimes, and in 2022, they added Apollo to their most wanted list. What really worried YouTube was that Apollo's SMNI channel, which had over 47,000 subscribers, was allegedly being used to recruit victims. Just one day after the tweet, YouTube permanently banned the SMNI news channel for breaking community guidelines. Although the channel was banned, Kiboloi managed to avoid arrest for about a year. But finally, in September 2024, the FBI caught him.
And a year later, he has actually been arrested by the police, possibly facing extradition.
Ordinary people risked their lives to make this next documentary while many people try to stop them. The Cove. The Cove is a disturbing documentary about a hidden cove in Taiji, Japan. A cove is kind of like a small beach surrounded by rocks or cliffs. But why make a documentary about this particular cove? It's because of the awful things that happen there.
That's a dolphin's worst nightmare, right there.
Every year, fishermen drive dolphins into the secret cove. Once trapped, the dolphins are captured. The lucky ones are sold to marine parks around the world. But for the dolphins that aren't sold, a much darker fate awaits them. They're harvested for their meat, which is then sold as food. But dolphins are highly intelligent and social creatures, and many people believe they shouldn't be eaten. In fact, many organizations have banned the hunting of all dolphins. Also, the method of hunting in Taiji is considered exceptionally cruel. However, each year, the dolphin hunt continues in this cove, and thousands are captured using brutal methods. The fishermen of Taiji didn't want anyone finding out what they were doing, so they kept the cove under tight security. Armed men guarded the area, and they wouldn't hesitate to take anyone out who tried to get in. The cove was also surrounded by wire fences and keep out signs.
You'll see the signs, keep out, danger. There are fishermen walking around these hills with knives.
On many occasions, local fishermen have gotten physical with journalists who try to record what goes on in the cove. Even the local police helped hide what was going on.
The fishermen told me, they said if the world finds out what goes on here, we'll be shut down.
For decades, this cruel hunt was kept a secret from the world. That was until dolphin activist Rick O'Barry heard about it. He wanted the world to know how dolphins were being treated in Japan. But the real question was, would he risk his life to expose the truth? Rick O'Barry wasn't always a dolphin activist. In fact, he was once the guy who made dolphins popular on TV. In the 1960s, Rick trained dolphins for the TV show Flipper. He spent years teaching dolphins to perform tricks and entertain crowds. But everything changed after one of his beloved dolphins passed away. Rick realized that keeping dolphins in captivity was cruel, and he dedicated his life to freeing them. When Rick and his team of activists found out about the dolphin hunt in Taiji, they decided to make a documentary exposing the truth. But they knew it wasn't going to be easy.
The town
Taiji in Japan is very fierce in protecting its secret.
Rick O'Barry and his team knew they couldn't just stroll in with their cameras. To get footage for their documentary, they would need to act like spies in a Hollywood movie. So they came up with a plan. Rick recruited an elite force of specialist divers, surfers, and underwater cameramen and special effects creators in order to expose the cove. Rick and his team entered Japan pretending to be tourists, blending in to avoid suspicion. Once they reached the town of Taiji, they executed the toughest part of their plan.
And so we've snuck in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
We set the cameras. These are prototypes of the first hard drive cameras ever made. We set those in the cove and my team went to bed.
The divers moved through the water quickly, placing hidden cameras disguised as rocks around the cove in the middle of the night. They also set up high-tech gear like underwater microphones to capture the sound during the hunt.
Right.
And I was hanging from a rope with black paint on like a ninja. And then we had to come back the next night to retrieve them. When I was hanging from the rope, I had a camera, so I'm watching it through the lens.
The footage from the hidden cameras showed hundreds of dolphins being captured, and it was so brutal that it was hard to watch. But the footage didn't just capture the hunt. It also exposed something else too. The dolphin meat being sold in Japan was contaminated with high levels of mercury, which is dangerous. Eating meat contaminated with mercury over a long period can cause mercury poisoning, which can be fatal. When the cove was released in 2009, the graphic scene showing dolphins being hunted made people sick. Viewers were angry and activists demanded an end to dolphin hunting. But not everyone was happy that the documentary was out.
The film has drawn criticism in Japan from protesters labeling it anti-Japanese.
The government believed the documentary hurt their reputation and gave a false impression of their culture. Unlike many Western countries, dolphin hunting wasn't illegal in Japan. Fishermen in Taiji also argued that the film was an attack on their way of life. Due to all the backlash, the documentary was unofficially banned in Japan. Whenever a screening was planned, protesters would show up and force the event to be cancelled. Some politicians even threatened people trying to show it in theaters. On top of that, the company with the rights to air the documentary in Japan got sued by someone in the film. But eventually, a few theaters in Japan managed to show the documentary. Unfortunately, dolphin hunting still happens in Taiji today, but the Cove shined a spotlight on the issue. You've definitely heard of this next game, but you probably don't realize it has a dark past. GTA San Andreas. In 2002, Rockstar Games started creating GTA San Andreas. The GTA series was already a hit, mainly because of the crime, chaos, and violence. But Sam Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar Games, wanted to push the limits. With GTA San Andreas, he didn't just want violence, he wanted to add bedroom scenes. So the developers created a part of the game where players could engage in intimate acts with in-game characters.
And it was more than a simple cutscene. No, it was a fully playable time minigame.
The minigame was pretty simple. First, your in-game girlfriend would invite you in for coffee.
You want to have some coffee?
If you said yes, you entered a room where you controlled all the action, if you get what I mean. But there was just one problem. Because the minigame contained adult content, GTA San Andreas would get an adults-only rating. Adults-only games can only be sold to adults. That meant Rockstar could lose millions of dollars in sales because kids wouldn't be able to buy it. The company didn't want to lose money, so at the last minute, they decided to remove the minigame. However, GTA San Andreas was almost done, so removing it was complicated. That's when they came up with a really bad idea. Instead of fully deleting the intimate bedroom scene, they buried it deep inside the game's code. They assumed no one would discover it. They were wrong. In October 2004, GTA San Andreas launched, and within a month, a gamer named Patrick W. discovered the hidden minigame. But Patrick W. wasn't just a regular gamer, he was also a modder. He started messing with the game's code and figured out how to unlock the hidden minigame. From there, he developed the Hot Coffee mod. With this mod, anyone playing GTA San Andreas on a PC could access the explicit bedroom content. In June 2005, Patrick uploaded the Hot Coffee mod to GTAgarage.com. It was downloaded over 1 million times within 4 weeks. Now, players all over the world had access to an explicit minigame with a bedroom scene, and they loved it. Game chat chat rooms were buzzing with excitement, but soon people started to realize what this actually meant, and it wasn't good. When GTA San Andreas was first released, it was rated mature. That meant only kids 17 and older were allowed to buy it. But now, the hot coffee mod unlocked bedroom scenes, making the game inappropriate for anyone under 18. The problem was, thousands of kids already bought it. In other words, an adult game was in the hands of children. Parents and politicians were furious.
We are determined to stop a situation in which video games and violent content are being peddled to our children.
Parents didn't just want the explicit minigame removed. They wanted GTA San Andreas banned. During the controversy, Rockstar released a statement. They acted like they didn't create the adult minigame. Instead, they blamed the modders for adding it. Other gamers turned against Patrick W. They accused him of ruining San Andreas' reputation. As people ranted in the gaming forums, one player made a key point. They can't blame Patrick W for this mod because he didn't make it, he just enabled it. And that's when the Entertainment Software Rating Board launched an investigation. They had one big question. Was this adult minigame really modded in by players, or had Rockstar hidden it all along? It didn't take long to figure it out.
That this content wasn't created by the modding community, it was there all along, and Rockstar must have known this.
Rockstar was caught red-handed. Once the truth came out, things went downhill for Rockstar Games.
That the Federal Trade Commission should investigate the publication of the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas to determine if the publisher intentionally deceived the Entertainment Software Ratings Board to avoid an adults-only rating.
Before Rockstar could respond, the ratings board made a decision. They changed San Andreas' rating from mature to adults only. It was the first GTA game to get an adults-only rating, and that had serious consequences.
With many retailers across the US just pulling San Andreas altogether while it has an adults-only rating.
Since it was now an adult game, hundreds of stores in the US pulled it from their shelves. The game was also banned in Australia and many Asian countries. There was only one way Rockstar could fix this mess. They recalled all copies of GTA San Andreas. Then, they removed the explicit minigame and released a version that couldn't run the hot coffee mod. That lifted the ban in Australia, but the damage was done. The scandal and recall cost Rockstar millions of dollars in sales. And even after the release, San Andreas remained banned in several Asian countries. This next movie has a disturbing title and it lived up to its name. The school was even sued because of it. Faces of Death. Faces of Death is a film most people cannot handle, and in 1985, a teacher learned that lesson the hard way. In June of that year, a math teacher in California decided to show this film to a bunch of high school students. But two of the students who watched the movie were so affected by it that they developed an unnatural fear of dying and suffered emotional distress. Their families were so mad they sued the school district. In the end, the district had to pay a $100,000 settlement to the two families. That's how serious this apparently was. But what was in this film that made it so unbearable to watch? Faces of Death is a 1978 film that explores the topic of death, but it doesn't just talk about it, it shows it.
Now, a motion picture dares to take you beyond the threshold of the living, where you may discover your own face of death.
Almost every scene shows someone meeting their end in different ways, accidents, natural disasters, and more. But it's a movie, so those scenes must be fake, right? Well, approximately 60% of the film shows actual deaths caught on camera. The producers brought this footage from news stations, medical researchers, and even morgues. But the fake scenes weren't any easier to watch. They were so realistic that viewers couldn't tell the difference from the real footage. To achieve this, the producers studied crime scene photos to make sure their special effects looked exactly like the real thing. Faces of Death is split into different sections. One segment features an interview with a hitman where he speaks about taking lives like it's nothing. Another scene shows a gunfight between a SWAT team and an armed criminal. There's even a segment about animals. The film runs for 105 minutes, dragging viewers through one disturbing scene after another. However, the movie tries to end on a positive note. The final scene shows a mother holding her newborn baby, almost as if the filmmakers were trying to calm the audience after all the unsettling content they just watched. The film was released in November 1978, and the public reaction was explosive. Given that most of the scenes were real, viewers felt the movie crossed every possible line. One reviewer described the film as crude, tasteless exploitation footage. He ended by saying people should be ashamed to watch this garbage. As the complaints piled up, the movie was banned in about 46 countries. In the UK, Faces of Death was placed on the video nasty list. This meant it was illegal to sell or rent the film there. Australia and New Zealand followed suit, banning the film in the 1980s. Over time, some countries lifted the bans, but even in places where it's allowed, the film has a dark reputation. This next movie has no gore or horror, but it was still banned in multiple countries for being extremely offensive. The Gods Must Be Crazy. The Gods Must Be Crazy was supposed to be a comedy, but instead of making people laugh, it made them mad. But unlike other banned films, it wasn't the visuals that shocked people, it was the story itself. The Gods Must Be Crazy is a South African film from 1980. The story begins when a pilot flying over the Kalahari Desert throws a Coke bottle out of his plane. The bottle falls through the sky and lands in the desert perfectly intact. An African tribe called the San people finds the bottle, and since they've never seen a bottle before, they think it's a magical object.
When something falls from the sky, it can only have come from the gods.
The tribe puts the bottle to use in all kinds of ways. They use it as a musical instrument, a fire starter, and even a cooking utensil. But what starts as a blessing quickly turns into a curse. Since there's only one bottle to share, it leads to fights and jealousy among the tribe members. He, one of the tribesmen, decides the bottle is causing too much trouble. He takes it and sets off on a journey to return it to the gods.
The unusual story of Key the Bushman as he travels to the edge of the earth to return the god's mistake.
Along the way, Key meets new people, gets into strange situations, and has many adventures. The film ran for 109 minutes and cost $5 million to produce. When it was released in September 1980, it didn't disappoint. The Gods Must Be Crazy slowly became a worldwide hit. It was the most financially successful South African film ever produced at the time. It earned about $200 million worldwide and was translated into multiple languages.
The Gods Must Be Crazy, an epic comedy of absurd proportions.
But not everyone found it entertaining. While it was being praised in some places, it was being condemned in others. People were angry about how the movie portrayed the African tribe that found the bottle. Critics said it made Black Africans look like primitive simpletons or incompetent buffoons. People living in African and Afro-Caribbean countries were the most upset. They felt the movie was making fun of them. Others tried to calm the situation, saying people were reading too much into a comedy meant to entertain. But that didn't reduce the backlash. The movie was banned in several African and Afro-Caribbean countries. To this day, people continue to debate whether The Gods Must Be Crazy is a harmless comedy or an offensive movie. This next video was one of the worst pranks ever uploaded to YouTube, the best friend video. This video was described as the worst prank ever uploaded to the internet. It was so bad that over 100,000 people signed a petition asking YouTube to take it down. Although the video was eventually deleted, the chaos it caused will never be forgotten. The man at the center of the controversy was Sam Pepper, and he did not have a great reputation.
He had this quirky, abrasive personality. He rolled this personality into a YouTube career after he got evicted from Big Brother.
Sam started posting on YouTube in September 2010. His channel focused mainly on pranks. At first, his videos were funny and helped him gain a lot of fans. But when more creators began doing prank videos on YouTube, Sam tried to stand out by making his pranks wilder.
The idea was as offensive or as weird as possible, regain him views with his boyish, teenage-ish audience.
Sam Pepper's extreme pranks did get him millions of views, but they also caused a lot of controversy. His video caused so much chaos in 2014 that the hashtag #ReportSamPepper started trending on Twitter. But no matter how much they complained, Sam kept pushing the limits. That brings us to the video we're discussing today, the killing best friend prank. The title alone gives you an idea of how far Sam went with this one. Sam Pepper wanted to see how someone would react react if they saw their best friend's life end right in front of them. So he decided to find out by pranking someone. The video started with Sam revealing the best friends involved in his plan.
Hello guys, today I'm filming a crazy prank. I met these two Viners a couple of weeks ago and I've arranged to meet them to talk about filming a video with them.
The target of the prank was Sam Goldbach, but let's just call him Goldbach. To make the whole thing more believable, Sam Pepper secretly convinced Goldbach's best friend Colby to help with the plan.
Colby is in on the prank and Sam is getting pranked.
Here's how it went down. The video showed Colby and Goldbach driving down a quiet, dark road when suddenly their car sputtered and came to a stop. The two guys got out of the car and popped the hood, trying to figure out why the car stopped. It was just the two of them standing in the middle of a dark, empty road.
God, he thinks I'm an idiot. Oh wait, I found it. We're good. Where's the oil thing? I don't even know where that is.
Then, out of nowhere, masked men rushed at them. Before Goldbach could react, they threw a bag over his head and forced him into a car. The video then jumped 20 minutes forward to show Goldbach tied to a chair in the middle of an abandoned rooftop. The mask was pulled off Goldbach's head so he could see what was going on. That's when he saw his best friend Colby kneeling next to him. One of the masked men pulled out a weapon, pointed it at Colby, and blam. Goldbach thought his best friend was gone forever. But after a few minutes, Goldbach realized Colby's body was moving. He was alive. Colby got back up totally unharmed with a big smile on his face. And everyone burst into laughter, revealing it was all fake. Goldbach's reaction was a mixture of relief and confusion. The video ends with Sam Pepper joined by Goldbach and Colby as they talk to the camera.
Okay guys, it's a couple of days later and we decided to film this outro now whilst we're all back in a same state.
We're good though. That was crazy. Props to you guys. That was actually...
Goldbach looked like he was fine with what happened, but when people watched the video, they had a very different reaction. The video went up in November 2015 and the viewers absolutely hated it.
There was absolutely no humor in it. Not at all.
One person wrote, "This is the darkest thing I've seen in a while. Cried real tears. This is not okay." As more people watched the video, the backlash just kept growing.
How do you do a prank like this? Like, it's first of all, it's not a prank.
People were so upset that over 100,000 people signed a petition asking YouTube to delete the video. But it didn't stop there. The petition asked YouTube to deactivate Sam Pepper's entire YouTube channel. Despite the backlash, YouTube stated that the video did not break any of its community guidelines and therefore will not be removed. Even the hacktivist group Anonymous got involved in the drama. The hackers demanded that Sam Pepper take down the video within 24 hours. Otherwise, they would unleash hell on him. As the backlash poured in, Sam Pepper defended his video, saying it's just shocking how everyone's taken it. Like he still didn't understand what was so wrong with what he did. Sam Pepper even started a GoFundMe campaign stating that he would delete his YouTube channel if $1.5 million was pledged to him. But eventually, Sam gave in to the pressure and deleted the video from YouTube. And everyone finally calmed down. But there's something important to consider about this best friend video. It might have been staged. In other words, the people who got pranked could have been part of the act all along. We know this because 3 months after this video, Sam admitted that all his controversial pranks were fake and filmed with the consent of everyone involved. Goldbach and Colby later confirmed this during an interview.
Most people don't believe me that was acting. They're still like, oh, he got traumatized, that was real. But I had tried to work on making myself cry for like 3 weeks before that.
Pepper, Colby, and Goldbach went on to build pretty successful social media careers despite the backlash. China took this next video game so offensively that they even called it a national security threat. Battlefield 4. In the early 2010s, Battlefield was one of the best first-person shooter games around. It was actually one of my favorite games back then. Battlefield 1, 2, and 3 were insanely popular, so when Battlefield 4 was announced, fans expected another great game. And that's exactly what they got. Battlefield 4 launched in October 2013, and it was an instant hit. But just 2 months later, that game sparked an international crisis. In December 2013, EA released the first DLC for Battlefield 4. They called it China Rising. China Rising had cool maps, weapons, and missions. But the story was extremely controversial. In the game, a Chinese admiral tries to overthrow the government. To stop him, the US military has to swoop in and save the day. China's government did not like this story. In In fact, they hated it. Officials called the game a national security threat. They said it made China look bad in the eyes of the world. Chinese news reports labeled it a new form of cultural penetration and aggression. Everyone thought China would just ban the DLC, but the government had a much bigger plan. China banned the entire game.
And Battlefield 4 just can't seem to catch a break. In addition to connectivity issues over the weekend, the game has also been banned in China for endangering Chinese national security.
China ordered stores in the country to remove every copy of Battlefield 4. Chinese websites weren't even allowed to mention the game. It was the first time China banned a game in more than 8 years. Some Chinese players tried to avoid the ban by smuggling the game in from other countries, but the government blocked those moves. They made it impossible to find the game anywhere in China. Battlefield 4 was popular all over the world, but in China, it was like it never existed. This next documentary was so controversial that it angered one of the world's most ruthless dictators. Now the creators of the film have to live in fear. The Red Chapel. Red Chapel is one of those documentaries that feels more like a spy movie than a regular documentary. Released in 2009, it begins with a wild idea. A team of Danish filmmakers wanted to travel to North Korea to make a documentary about life under a dictatorship. If you know anything about North Korea, you'll realize how dangerous that idea was. North Korea is one of the most oppressive places in the world. The government controls every aspect of people's lives. Basic freedoms like the right to speak your mind or practice religion are heavily restricted. In North Korea, people have been arrested for seemingly ordinary things like having the wrong hairstyle, watching foreign TV shows, and wearing jeans. Things are so strict that even falling asleep when the dictator is making a speech can lead to a death sentence. North Korea seemed like the perfect place to make a documentary about dictatorship. But there was one big problem. They didn't allow visitors. To enter the country, you needed special permission from the government, and there was no way they'd let anyone in to come and film a documentary on dictatorship. The filmmakers knew they couldn't tell the truth, so they lied. They pretended to be part of a cultural exchange program, claiming that they were bringing a fun comedy show to entertain the North Korean people. They also expressed how much they admired the North Korean dictator.
Two Danish Korean comedians, and they have come here to give pleasure to your people and pay tribute to your powerful and wonderful society.
Surprisingly, the North Korean government let them in. But from the moment they arrived, it was clear things wouldn't go as planned. The North Korean government, suspicious of foreigners, kept a close eye on the group and controlled their every move. They were assigned a handler named Mrs. Pak, who made sure they only saw what the government wanted them to see. And the most difficult part was that they had to perform an actual comedy show.
A cat.
Pussy or with.
In English you can say pussycat or cat. It's you know, a cat. Pussy. Meow.
Meow, pussy.
But they also had to film a documentary. So they told the government handler that they were recording their trip to show the world how great North Korea was. But in reality, they planned to use their footage to expose how tough life was in that country. This was incredibly risky. If the government discovered their real plan, the filmmakers could be thrown in prison or worse. They performed their comedy act, taking every chance to film situations that revealed the harsh reality of life in North Korea. However, as they kept filming, they started to wonder if they were doing the right thing. They realized they were putting North Korean citizens in danger just by talking to them, because if anyone was caught saying something bad about the government, they could face severe punishment. After finishing their comedy performances, they left North Korea and turned their footage into the documentary The Red Chapel. It was shown at multiple film festivals and got a lot of praise. But obviously not everyone was happy about it. The Red Chapel was banned in North Korea for mocking the regime. North Korean officials accused the director of lying to get into their country and even called him an animal. Even though the Red Chapel is still banned in North Korea, it won multiple awards around the world. This next game got in trouble because it put kids in danger. Roblox. I know we all know what Roblox is, but what you probably didn't know was that it was banned in an entire country. Roblox is one of the biggest online gaming platforms in the world, but behind all the fun and games, there's a dark side. Roblox is filled with young kids, but it also has a huge number of adult players. And when you put those two groups together, bad things can happen. Roblox has become a hunting ground for preds. Every year, there are new reports of this happening.
Parents, beware. Monsters are among us. Police said the 13-year-old girl met Graham on Roblox.
Despite all the stories, it doesn't look like Roblox is doing enough to stop it. Roblox has a history of ignoring problems that don't directly affect their profits. It's almost like all they care about is money. Back in 2022, I said something that can still apply today. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear that Roblox doesn't see its users as people. To them, we're just walking money bags waiting to be empty. At the time, I was talking specifically about Roblox's payment system, but in a way, it applies to the platform as a whole. It seems that Roblox's top priority isn't safety, it's making money. They focus on getting more users and growing their business. Everything else, including protecting young users, comes second. Since Roblox isn't doing enough, some countries decided to act. One of them was Turkey. On August 7th, 2024, Turkey officially banned Roblox. They released a statement saying they did it to ensure the protection of Turkish children. At first, Turkey banning Roblox didn't seem like a big deal. That was until people realized Turkey had the 5th largest Roblox player base in the world. Roblox didn't want to lose millions of users, so they tried to negotiate with Turkish officials to lift the ban, but the government wouldn't budge. Turkey refused to let Roblox back in. After that, other countries started thinking about banning Roblox too. This means that if Roblox doesn't take safety more seriously, more bans could be on the way. Horror movies are obviously supposed to be scary, but this next movie pushed the limits. Saw 6. The Saw franchise became famous for its gruesome, violent horror. The fans loved it and they kept coming back for more. The first 5 Saw movies made over $400 million at the box office, turning a massive profit. So when it was time to make Saw 6, the producers decided to take things to the next level. But some people think they went a little too far.
Saw 6.
To really understand Saw 6, you need to know what the series is about. The Saw franchise centers around a vigilante known as Jigsaw. Jigsaw has a twisted concept of justice. He believes that bad people need to be punished, but not necessarily by going to jail. They need to face life or death situations designed to teach them moral lessons. In Jigsaw's mind, if they survive these challenges, they'll become better people. So Jigsaw kidnaps these so-called bad people and forces them to play horrifying games where survival is not guaranteed. Saw 6 begins with 2 loan sharks who've been captured by Jigsaw. He throws them into a deadly game with one rule. Only one of them can leave alive. What follows is a brutal contest for survival. In the end, only one makes it out. That set the tone for the rest of the movie. Jigsaw's next target is a health insurance executive named William. The reason why William is there is because he denies insurance coverage to people who desperately need medical care. This didn't age well.
But my requests for coverage have all been turned down. Yeah. So I was hoping that if I came and explained it to you that you might be able to get that overturned for me.
Jigsaw captures William and takes him to an abandoned zoo. A videotape informs William that he must complete a series of tests to survive. The challenges in this movie aren't random. Every one of them is designed to punish William for his decisions and force him to confront the lives he's ruined. As the movie goes on, the tests become more brutal and the stakes get higher. The producers poured $11 million into making the movie as scary as possible. In October 2009, Saw 6 was finally released. That's when the trouble began. Saw 6 was so graphic and intense that many countries had an issue with it. Even in America, where horror films often push boundaries, the Motion Picture Association demanded that the gruesome opening scene should be toned down before the movie could be approved for release. In Spain, things were even more problematic. Spanish film authorities gave the film an X rating for extreme violence. This meant the film could not be shown in any theater in Spain. The producers were forced to cut some of the most graphic scenes. Only then did Spain lower the rating to an 18. This meant it could be shown in theaters, but only for adult audiences. However, other countries weren't willing to compromise. In Thailand and Malaysia, Saw 6 was flat out banned. Trinidad and Tobago also banned the film. Despite all the controversy, Saw 6 still managed to earn $69.8 million worldwide. Although that sounds impressive, it was the lowest grossing film in the Saw franchise franchise at the time. Many people think the movie was just so unwatchable that it hurt its box office performance. As one review said, Saw 6 is the 6th Saw I've seen and maybe the sickest. Because of this next game's questionable nature, it was banned in 6 different countries. Manhunt 1 and 2. Manhunt was released in 2003, and it's still one of the most controversial games ever. In the game, you play as James Earl Cash. Cash is a death row inmate about to be executed by lethal injection, but right before it happens, he wakes up. He realizes he was just sedated. Then a mysterious voice starts speaking to Cash. The voice introduces himself as the director. He tells Cash there's one way out, one last shot at freedom, but only if Cash follows his instructions.
Do exactly as I say, and this will be over before the night is out.
The problem is that the director's instructions are all about ending lives. Cash is told to hunt down enemies and take them out using whatever he can find. Glass shards, baseball bats, plastic bags, anything becomes a weapon. What made Manhunt even worse was how real it all felt. The people Cash hunted in the game showed fear and desperation. And then came the twist. Cash found out he was actually starring in a snuff film. All his brutal acts were being filmed by the director.
You're doing fine, Cash, just fine. We're getting some great material here.
The game also had kidnapping, substances, and so many more illegal acts I can't even tell you guys. All in all, Manhunt was deeply disturbing and people were furious. The game was even called a murder simulator. In the US, parents and politicians demanded an immediate ban. They were scared the game might inspire real-life aggression, especially among young people. But somehow, Manhunt slipped through. It was never banned in the US, but other countries weren't as forgiving. New Zealand, Malaysia, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia all banned Manhunt as soon as it was released. But that was nothing compared to what happened in the UK. In July 2004, a boy took the life of his close friend. Almost instantly, tabloids in the UK jumped on the story. They reported that the culprit was obsessed with Manhunt, suggesting the game inspired the crime. But when police investigated, they found out the culprit didn't even own the game. But it was too late. Manhunt was now tied to a real-life tragedy. Its reputation got even worse, and more countries, including Australia and Germany, banned the game too. But after all this bad press, Rockstar Games did something no one saw coming. They made a sequel to Manhunt. In 2007, Rockstar Games released Manhunt 2, and somehow it was even more disturbing than the first.
This definitely takes the cake as probably the most violent thing I've played.
The sequel introduced a new feature called Levels of Execution. The game encouraged players to eliminate their targets in brutal ways to get more points, and people were not okay with that. Soon, they were talking about the game in Congress.
The new video is called Manhunt 2, and at the state capitol, it's creating ripples over the rating system for these games.
In the US, Manhunt 2 was rated adults only. Major stores refused to sell it. Consoles like PlayStation and Nintendo blocked it.
Tonight, a violent video game pulled from store shelves.
Manhunt 2 has been the target of criticism since its release a week ago. Now Target is doing something about it.
To save the game, Rockstar blurred some of the violent scenes and cut out the worst parts. That version got a mature rating in the US and could finally be sold. But even the toned-down version was still too much. Manhunt 2 got banned in Germany, Malaysia, Australia, and South Korea, among others. The game was just too intense. If there's one thing these bans prove, it's that games are powerful. This next video film didn't rely on special effects, it showed real suffering. Earthlings. The Earthlings documentary had one goal: to expose the ways animals are used for food, clothing, and scientific research. But the footage isn't easy to watch. The documentary's director, Sean Monson, came up with the idea while working on a commercial about spaying and neutering pets. During that time, he stumbled upon the horrible conditions in slaughterhouses and other industries that used animals. What he saw was so disturbing that he felt like it was his duty to let the world see it. However, that was not going to be easy. The million-dollar companies running these industries wanted to keep everything quiet. If the world saw what was really going on in the factories and labs, it could destroy their business, and they weren't about to let that happen without a fight. To make Earthlings, Sean Monson used hidden cameras to gather footage from places like factory farms, research labs, and even circuses. The footage was raw and intense, but it revealed the truth. The message was that animals are living beings, not just objects, and they deserve kindness and respect. Many who watch Earthlings were were inspired to change their lifestyles, opting for vegan diets or avoiding products tested on animals. Because of its graphic content, some theaters and streaming services banned Earthlings because it was just too disturbing. However, the documentary found its audience online, where people could watch it for free and share it with others. Today, Earthlings is considered one of the most popular documentaries ever made about the ethical treatment of animals. These documentaries show us just how dark the world can be. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling truths are the ones we need to hear.
This next case proves that kids' content on the internet can be damaging for them.
The disturbing ElsaGate. A few years ago, YouTube was under a lot of backlash. The only way they survived was by deleting hundreds of videos. Those deleted videos were called the ElsaGate videos, and this is the dark story behind them. Between 2016 and 2017, weird thumbnails like these started popping up on YouTube. At first glance, you see familiar faces like Elsa from Frozen and Spider-Man, but if you pay attention to the titles and how they're posing, you realize something's off. Anyone who clicked on these thumbnails was in for a nasty surprise. Instead of fun, kid-friendly content, the videos showed disturbing and straight-up creepy scenes.
There was an episode where I saw a popular character, and I think it was Peppa Pig again. They'd actually set fire to a house with one of the other characters in it.
Some videos showed Elsa and Spider-Man with huge needles acting out bizarre hospital scenes. Others showed Peppa Pig crying or being chased. Some videos even showed cartoon characters doing intimate things that are not suitable for kids to watch.
Peppa Pig drinking bleach. Those are just some of the troubling videos that slipped through the filters.
The problem was that there wasn't just one or two videos like this. There were thousands on YouTube, and some children couldn't tell the difference between these creepy cartoons and their regular kids' cartoons.
She was not aware. She was not aware. She thought it was Peppa Pig. She just wanted me to not take it away from her because she was engrossed in what the video was.
This disturbing trend became known as ElsaGate. The name came from Elsa, one of the main cartoon characters in these videos, and the word gate, which is a term used to describe major scandals. But that doesn't answer the biggest question. Why would anyone create such weird videos using popular cartoon characters? Some content creators figured out that using famous kids characters like Elsa or Spider-Man could bring in tons of views. And with those views came big money from ads. By making videos that were purposely shocking or weird, they could take advantage of kids' curiosity and the fact that they often watch videos over and over. To make as much money as possible, they pumped out these videos fast. Each video would rake in hundreds of thousands or even millions of views, which meant more money in their pockets. These videos were low quality and didn't follow real stories, just random unsettling moments.
It's like, this stuff is crazy.
It's weird.
I didn't even know about this.
They dress up in these cartoons. They have little babies that are dressed up like Spider-Man or like Elsa. And like this scene keeps happening over and over again.
Before long, everyone was talking about ElsaGate. Parents, teachers, and the media. The news called the videos nonsensically nightmarish and pretty twisted for children's content.
Inappropriate videos have infiltrated YouTube Kids. One click, and it's down the rabbit hole. Video suggestions after that growing more and more deranged.
Child psychologists warned that watching such strange and violent scenes could confuse or scare children.
It's going to be confusion. Like, I'm expecting one thing, I'm used to one thing, and now it doesn't make sense. It's unfamiliar.
Some angry parents even reported the strange videos to the cops, but the cops couldn't really help.
And we've received complaints about the difficulty for police is those kinds of videos are not illegal.
Before long, people stopped pointing fingers at the creators of these videos and started blaming YouTube itself. Parents were furious, demanding that YouTube step in and get rid of the disturbing content. Some even banned their kids from watching YouTube altogether. To save its reputation, the platform began mass deleting thousands of these so-called ElsaGate videos. In November 2017, YouTube announced that it terminated more than 270 accounts and removed over 150,000 videos that fell into the ElsaGate category. YouTube also demonetized nearly 2 million videos with questionable kids content. But the most important thing YouTube did was update its policy, announcing that creators would no longer be able to monetize videos that made inappropriate use of family-friendly characters.
These bans are a reminder that the content you watch online can shape who you are without you even realizing it. So my friends, be careful what you give your attention to, because what you consume might consume you. Visual Venture. I hope you guys are hydrated and enjoyed the mega deep dive into banned media. Make sure you guys subscribe because I'll be making more deep dives like this one like every couple of months. But I got way more dark internet documentaries for you guys to watch right now if you click right here. Love you guys. Peace.